The Word with Miranda, your information gateway.
But right now, we're going to chat a bit about aspartame. You probably know about it. Loads of people have heard about it. It's a sweetener. It's a fake sugar. Now, apparently, it causes Gulf War syndrome, birth defects, Parkinson's, cancer. Or does it? Now, the NHS, the FDA, and the American Cancer Society say different. It's quite probably one of the most studied and tested. I don't know exactly what we'd call it. Let's bring it at this point before I carry on too much. Joining me on the show today, I'd like to welcome back Phoenix Liberty Rain.
Hello.
Fitness and psychology coach. Welcome back to The Word. How are you this week?
I'm good, thank you. It's nice to be back here.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome. Now, we do have a question from a listener who wants to talk to you about steroids, but we'll get on to that in a minute. Yeah, he just wants to know about why he's not bulking up and stuff like that, and should he be using them. So we'll get on to that in a minute. But for now, I know you're really keen to talk about aspartame. I've always thought that, I kind of listened to the hype that it was, extremely kind of poisonous. But I kind of did my research and found out that it was all around a hoax email that was sent out a few years ago. Do you want to explain a little bit more about it?
I don't actually know the email you're referring to.
Well, okay, then.
But there's been so much hype around.
What exactly is aspartame? What's the
aspartame is a sweetener, and it was discovered in a lab experiment. They were testing for something else, and a chemist just happened to lick his finger, and it was sweet, and they discovered sweeteners, and there you went. So aspartame gets a really bad rap. We've heard lots of horror stories around it, to the point that they used to teach this in fitness qualifications.
Really?
So many years ago, when I was interning at a London studio, and the London studio at the time was ahead of the game. It was kind of leading the way for personal trainers and fitness professionals in the UK. And if you interned there, you were considered cream of the crop.
Right.
So we got taught a lot of stuff. We had our own internal qualifications. They were then marketed out to personal trainers all around the UK. But one of the modules in there was, it was all around elimination, clean eating. That was when it was really, really trendy.
Yeah. And
aspartame was a module that was taught in there. So the way that it was taught to me was aspartame overexcites the synapses in the brain, and it's like almost like a little fizzing little, I don't know what you call it, like imagine a firefly that suddenly got brighter and brighter and then suddenly burnt out.
Right.
And that's how it was described to us. So it was said at that time that's what it did to the synapses in the brain, overexcited the synapses, and then they blew out. There was loads of articles to support that, and quite a lot of studies on rats. So there was then the jump made from, if it does this in rats, it obviously does it in humans, and it's got to be bad for you. The natural healing kind of world jumped on that, and it took that on board as their own. It supported all their theories around, clean eating is the best way for you. You must eat organic. You mustn't have any processed food in your diet. If you're not eating all natural, then you're poisoning your body, and people sold a lot of products based on that, even to the extent where the studio where I was working, we sold our products based on that. And I hold my hands up, I was one of those advocates. I used to preach all that stuff to all of my clients, say that, if you're eating a diet that's not clean, then you're taking in toxins every day and you need to detox. Turns out it was all made up.
Well, on that note, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because I have heard so much hype, and I was suckered in with it as well. I'm still not completely convinced that there isn't, that there's a place for aspartame in our food. But we're going to have to take a bit of a break, and then we'll come back and carry on the conversation. We're talking to Phoenix Liberty Rain, fitness and psychology coach, about aspartame. And sort of back in 1999, a hoax email went around, and it was basically an elaborate health scare involving a hoax conspiracy, and it went viral, and the email was full of anecdotal claims and unsupported medical advice that has kind of become an urban legend in a way. And it's kind of well, at this point, who do you believe? But, the FDA and the NHS have done numerous tests on rats and, in fact, on humans in America as well as rats. They did tests on 500,000 people, and there was no supporting evidence that it did, in fact, increase brain tumours, was what they were testing on. Anyway, Phoenix, we'll come back and talk to you shortly. You're listening to The Word on Ujima 98 FM. Absolutely love that track, and I haven't heard it for so long. The sounds of Nena Cherry, and it's a track called Some Days, taken from her Homebrew album. You're listening to The Word on Ujima 98 FM, the UK's #1 urban station. I'm Miranda, here through till 4 o'clock. Joining me in the studio today is none other than fitness and psychology coach Phoenix Liberty Rain. Welcome back, Phoenix. Now,
hello.
Hi, we're talking about aspartame. We've talked about the hype, the horrors, it's basically, let's get to the nitty gritty of it. Aspartame is a sugar substitute that's used in thousands of food and drinks, including cereal sugar, sugar-free gum, diet, soft drinks. It's in so many different things. It's the diet soft drinks that you find it in. Now, people have been saying for a long time it's extremely dangerous. It can cause birth defects, cancer, Parkinson's disease. Is it true? Is it bad for you or not? Okay.
One word. No, it's not. But we have a lot of concerns about it. There's so much hype about it. So many articles, and things like the papers love a bad food, don't they? They love a story like that they can jump on and create sensationalism around. Well, actually, for something to get to human consumption, it is highly regulated, it's highly tested. So although they do start with animal testing, the animal testing is only there to see if it is viable for human testing. Then it will go through a number of human trials before it's allowed to go out, and it's regulated, of course. We know the amounts that are contained in food. There's a certain standard that's allowed in the supermarket, and different countries have different regulations. The UK is one of the strictest regulators of foods in the world, so it's the safest place. Yeah, they wouldn't put it in our food if it was going to kill us.
Well, that's, very interesting because of, there's certain people I know who would stand here now and put their hand on the heart and say, absolutely, it is bad for you, even, with this evidence in front of us. So it probably gets to a certain point that if you did loads of it, and took way beyond your daily dosage, then surely that probably wouldn't be good for you. But I have heard they tested, the FDA tested on 500,000 rats, and then that showed evidence that it did increase some problems. Is that right?
Well, yeah, because they're rats. They're not the same as humans.
Okay.
So rats have a very, very different system. And I was having this same conversation with someone on Facebook the other day where they said, well, if they're testing on rats, it must mean that rats are similar to humans. We're all animals, therefore we all work the same way. Well, you know what? We don't work the same way as animals. We have very, very different physiological systems. For example, a cow has 4 stomachs. We have 1 stomach. We can't eat the same foods that animals eat. Well, let me tell you about rats. So rats are tiny compared to humans. So, of course, it's a very concentrated form in rats. If you have a look at, there was a study on fasting glucose in rats. So liver glycogen in rats will increase to around 300 milligrams after about 10 days in rats. Well, in humans, it's less than 100. So there isn't really a comparison there, whereas people like to think there is. And a lot of people base these claims on rat studies. Now, some of the objections around aspartame. So firstly, I hear that it spikes insulin. And if it spikes insulin, that means it's having the same effect as sugar and it's going to make you fat. Well, for one, insulin doesn't make you fat. Insulin rises when you eat. And in fact, insulin rises higher with protein than it does with sugar. But secondly, aspartame does not spike insulin. It absolutely doesn't. It's never been found to spike insulin in any human trial. So that's a flat no.
Well, also the American Cancer Society actually went on to test it on 500,000 humans, and the result had no increased risk of cancer or other diseases. Thank you, Phoenix. Just before we go, somebody's texted in wanting to ask you something. You may or may not know the answer. I'm just trying to see the name of the person because I always think it's nice to say hello. I think it's Hindi Singh, but it's now disappeared off the page. But they're asking, has anyone heard of the fake rice issue?
Fake rice?
Yeah, fake rice. There are a few videos of Chinese fake rice. No, I tell you what, Hindi, we will look into that and get back to you. We also had somebody on Facebook asking about using steroids, and he wanted to bulk up and it wasn't working.
I saw that post the other day. Well, listen, if you're a hard gainer, this is what we call them in the industry, hard gainers, generally male, sometimes female, but they find it hard to keep weight on, and you can lift and lift and lift and still not put on muscle mass.
Right.
Now, it is possible to do that without steroids, but you're not going to get the same effect as if you took steroids, obviously. However, I have trained several hard gainer males who've wanted to put on significant amounts of muscle mass because they're personal trainers and they have to have a certain look about them, and it just means that you have to be really, really hot on your food. So we're talking 4,000 to 6,000 calories a day on top of your training program.
Wow.
Of course, it all needs to be synced up. You need to know what you're doing. Make sure that you're eating the right amount of calories and you're training in the right way, allowing recovery and all the rest of it. So it is much harder for you, but you don't need to take steroids. There is a way to do it, and it just means that you have to be really hot on your nutrition and eat a lot.
And speak to somebody like you and get some proper advice. Yeah, no,
exactly.
That's great. Phoenix Liberty Rain, thank you so much for joining us this week. Hopefully we'll see you at some point throughout the summer.
Yes, definitely.
I'm not around rather a lot in August, but we'll work it out.
Yeah,
we'll work it
absolutely.
out. So thank you so much for joining us. That was Phoenix Liberty Rain, fitness and psychology coach. You can find her on Facebook and all social media, and she's rather a superb coach. So if you've got any advice or any questions you want to ask, then please feel free to get in touch with her on Facebook and social media.
The Word with Miranda, your information gateway.